The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning, Bahamas, and welcome to 96.9 FM. You're tuned into Guardian Radio, and I'm Erin Greene, and you're on the clock. If you don't want to tune in via your radio, you have tons of options available to you. We're also streaming live audio and video on GuardianTalkRadio.com. You can listen in on TV on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 or Flow Channel 612. Or you can download the Guardian Radio app for your Apple or Android smart devices and listen to our audio feed or watch us on our video feed right there on the Guardian Radio app. You can also text us on the Guardian Radio text line. That's 422-4796. That's 422-4796, and that's powered by BTC. Standard text rates apply. You can also call us at 323-6232, 325-4316, or 326-4259. Welcome to On the Clock with Erin Greene. On the Clock, we engage organizations, institutions, social and cultural leaders, and ordinary people to better understand the impact of public policy, private sector development, and emerging social and consumer trends. On the Clock, we have conversations that help us understand and navigate a rapidly changing Bahamas. Good morning, Bahamas. Now, I tell you what, I took a look at the papers this morning, and there is nothing but politics to talk about. There's plenty politics to talk about. And I really want to talk about some of it today, you know. But today is Culture Fridays. It's Culture Friday. I don't know if we have to talk about the political culture today. No matter how desperately they beg for our attention, no matter how desperately they seek us out to critique them and their behavior, it is not that day. So, dear Attorney General of the Bahamas, I don't know why you are speaking to every matter in the paper today that doesn't involve you. I don't know why you're speaking to the implementation of 5G, right? And some other things that I don't know why you're talking about. Let me see. I don't know why you are talking about the Grand Lucayan sale, but you could be talking about the detained African refugees. You could be talking about displaced Abaco residents who are waiting to figure out what their voting rights are now that they've been displaced by a storm. You could be talking about childcare workers and the need to understand the law. And you could be talking about the vaccination compensation and adverse effects support plan, if it exists. You could be talking about that, but you're not. So, since you're not, why you don't come join us while we talk about culture on this Friday? Now, we're shifting the dial a little bit. We spent the last few weeks talking to the world, talking to Junkanoo artisans, talking to people who work in the Junkanoo field. We've even been talking to some of the stakeholders of Junkanoo, the Junkanoo Corporation, and the Bahamas Junkanoo Advisory Council on the status of Junkanoo, the status of the lives of the people in Junkanoo, and what they are doing to survive without their lifeblood, without the sound of the cowbell in the road, without the cool air dropping on them at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's been rough, and it's been tough, but they're making it. They're surviving, and they've been evolving. And I'm glad that we had an opportunity to talk to them about it, because we could see that there is a world for Junkanooers outside of Bay Street. And we're not just talking performance. We're talking economics. We're talking social involvement and social engagement, right? Junkanooers and the Junkanoo Committee are an integral part of our lives as a country, whether we know it or not. So I'm glad we were able to have that discussion. It's not over yet, because a lot of those guests are coming back. But today, two very special guests in the house. I have two men. Let me tell you why they're special. Because they could cook. They could cook and they like to share their food. That's the most important part. Because plenty of men in this town could cook, you know. It's like the best kept secret. When you look at these lovely married couples and couples that are, you know, they've survived over the decades, and you look at the beautiful faces as they move through the town, you know the secret to their marriage is that man could cook, and he'd cook whenever the woman say cook. Because that is the secret to a beautiful union. Find yourself a man who could cook. You don't even have to marry him. You just take care of him. And your life will be blessed forever. And I noticed because my daddy was a cook. He was a chef. He could cook, right? And I didn't know it at the time because I was a little thing. And they'd cook in fish roe and cook in sauce and thing. I didn't know about none of them things. But as I got older, right, the taste of those things still linger in. And sometimes I feel like it in my belly, you know. And that's how powerful food is and food memories are. So my guests today are Chef Wayne. Now, Chef Wayne, is that your professional name? Are you like a superstar chef? You got one name, Chef Wayne.
Good morning, Barbers. Yes, Chef Wayne Monka.
Ah, that's nice. And good morning, sir. Will you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning. My name is Chef Simeon Hall, Jr.
Awesome. But we also know you as Chef Brentford Hall, right?
Yeah.
And see, I believe he uses Brentford Hall when he's being very fancy, right? He uses Simeon Hall when he's making bread in the rock oven,
Right.
but when he's cooking aubergine and courgettes, right?
No, well, you know, and oddly enough, some of the best eggplants are from Andros, but a lot of people don't know that because Bahamians don't really eat eggplant.
At all, because they don't understand the potential of eggplant in their life.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I guess a good way to start this show is to talk about how amazing Bahamian food culture is, how amazing food ingredients here in the Bahamas are, and also the limitations that we face across the board, whether it's in standalone restaurants or resorts and hotels. We could talk about those limitations all day.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about a bit of the food culture. So, I can tell this little story about what food culture means to me. I can be dead quick. So I used to teach vacation Bible school when I was a good and well-mannered child. So one summer I was teaching vacation Bible school in Mangrove Key. Two exciting things happened. The first is I almost met a Chick Johnny in the bush. Almost because I was faster than they was, right? The second thing was this. I met Sir Lyndon Pindling, the Prime Minister of our country, for the first time. And he was impressed that a bunch of us young people had volunteered our time to go teach vacation Bible school in Mangrove Key, of all places. So he said, you know what? You all come in with me. This gentleman took us, about 6 or 7 of us, to South Andros, put us up overnight in Las Palmas Hotel, and then arranged a tour of South Andros for us the next day. And we had breakfast with him. And this is the thing here that I have never forgotten. I don't even remember what the rooms looked like at the hotel. But he took us to this little spot and he introduced us to this woman. And he said, whenever I'm in South Andros, this is where I eat breakfast. And we had bush tea. And we had a Johnny cake that was like it had a crust on it. And the crust was heavy. And I thought, this was going to be Johnny bread, But when you bit into it, there was coconut in the crust, and then it just melted in your mouth. Mm-hmm. I've never forgotten the taste of that Johnny cake, but I've never tasted it again, ever. I've never seen that recipe. And so one of the reasons why I'm so focused on food and food culture is I realize that we are at risk of losing that recipe. And I hope that it is tucked away somewhere in somebody's Bible, waiting to be discovered. Or better yet, it's the best kept secret, right? And that's what they use in South Andros to determine who will get the seat, who will win. Because if they like you, if she like you and she give you that Johnny cake, that means you endorse on the ticket.
I feel like it's very imperative that we, as chefs, drive the agenda of ensuring that everybody knows the authentic recipes. There will be variation as we go along and infusions, but we need to know it how it's done the original way. And I believe that's so important. Like you talk about the Johnny cake. In Andros, they're known for infusing a lot of coconut
Right.
in their food. For instance, the boiled fish, they use coconut water. that kind of thing. And Andres,
What? Wait, what?
yeah, Andres, they infuse. I even for the ice cream that I produce, I got a coconut infused honey. So in Andres, they infuse a lot of coconut in their cooking. So
Well, I know you get it in the rice.
definitely,
Right?
yeah.
That's one way to tell.
Well, that's because in Andres they make a lot of their own products. Unfortunately, if you look at it, and this is what we were kind of alluding to earlier, I'm doing a study across the 100 islands, keys, and rocks. And what I've come up with is this term called island specificity. And what we need to understand in the Bahamas, because for many, many years, before I really got rooted into studying Bahamian food culture, I always used to challenge my colleagues and everybody else to tell me what the national dish of the Bahamas is. And when you ask most people, I did a study, several, 100 people, out of those 100 people, 9 out of 10 people told you what the Jamaican national dish was. And out of that same study, 1 in every 10 persons guessed what the Bahamian national dish is. Most people don't even know the national dish of record in the Bahamas is boiled fish.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, I now, after years and years of research, I disagree with that. The reason I disagree with that is because to every island, there's something different. To every island, there's a different tradition, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so that's why I dispute that now and say it's
Stick a
very
pin.
different.
Stick a pin. We ain't going nowhere. But I was looking in today's paper, right? And there's an interesting column with an international writer advising the Bahamas to pay attention to its rural communities, right? And I thought to myself, you know what? That's not what we need. What we need is a ministry of the exterior, right? We need a ministry, because that's what we have. We have an archipelagic exterior.
Right.
And one of the reasons why you need to think about it that way is because of the way that we treat food and the island specificity.
Right.
Because you have distinct cultures, food cultures coming out of every island.
Exactly.
So go back to what you said.
So, for example, let's use conch salad as an example. In Grand Bahama, there's West End, pickled conch. Absolutely amazing. You only find it in like 2 or 3 places in Grand Bahama.
Yeah.
And then you come to Nassau, tropical conch,
Tropical salad.
tropical salad.
Yeah.
Which is, really birthed here. There's a lot of different stories behind it, but it still is very New Providence based.
Now, what about those people in Miami that putting mayonnaise in the conch salad? Do
But-
we have to write
yes,
Carol
no,
Palmer, the
no,
Governor General?
no,
about
that
that?
is-
Abaco thing.
that's
That's an
that is
Abaco.
an Abaco thing.
Yeah.
In Abaco, we put mayonnaise in conch salad,
Yeah.
and it's very good actually.
I mean, I couldn't imagine that it wouldn't be good, right? Because I put mayonnaise in my crawfish.
Of course.
So why wouldn't it be good?
Of course, why not? But see, that's just it. We've already touched on 3 of the major islands, and they all celebrate and consume conch salad totally different. You can't go to Abaco talking about no tropical salad. Because they ask you where you going with this fruit salad with conch in it.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people in New Providence don't like mayonnaise in their conch salad.
Yeah.
Now tell me, what? Okay, so when you talk about what is the baseline for the traditional dish, right?
Right.
I hear people saying, well, I could put carrots in my sauce, right? And I say to them, I mean, you could put it in, but I don't mean
Right.
it's still.
Yeah.
Well, to me it is.
Well, so I say to people,
It's an evolve. It's an evolve.
It's an evolution.
Yeah,
right?
evolution.
So I said, do you know why people started putting carrots in the thing, in the food, in the sauce, in the stew?
Right.
And because the chef told me, you put carrots in the sauce when you oversalt your pot.
Well,
Because the carrots will soak up the salt, and then you don't tell the people, you just let them think it's for color, and that's how that evolved.
Well, if he's a chef, he should know to season the pot last. You don't season the pot at the beginning, because you cannot take away.
All
You
right,
can
so-
add, but you cannot take away.
So one of the first questions I wanted to ask y'all, but y'all is mine, so I let y'all start, is what's the difference between a chef and a cook? Because I know plenty good cooks, but I feel like the difference between a chef and a cook is to season the pot last.
Well, a chef is a professional cook. That's what
Okay.
you have to look at.
Now, when you say professional, I know plenty women who's get paid plenty money to cook food for people. Does that qualify them to be a chef?
Well, no, you have to be diverse in the different preparations of food. The food. You don't cook with a recipe. You know exactly how it's supposed to look. It's a lot of, you in terms of menu writing, in terms of, because, you have to, food you eat with your eyes.
Yeah.
And so you have to know how to create art out of food.
Now, typically,
let me punch in there, and then again, it's amazing that you will find difference of opinions. To me, a chef is just somebody who cooks and manages. You manage people, profit, and product.
Right, so it's more than just...
Yeah. So it's the management aspect added to cooking. Because a lot of people can cook very well, and if you put them against some chefs who cannot cook, but those chefs can manage. They can manage those things, so then they're still qualified to be chefs.
Well, you have to be a leader.
Right.
You have to be a leader to be a chef.
Right, and you got to have confidence.
Yes.
Right, and you got to have imagination.
Definitely.
And creativity.
But those things come with cooks. My grandmother wouldn't have called a chef, but she owned a restaurant, so I would call her a chef.
Yeah.
My grandmother was a pioneer in the restaurant world in back when nobody else was doing it. She was one of the first black restaurateurs in the region.
Yeah.
She never called herself a chef, but she was.
Here it is. I thought you'd start this thing all by yourself. You had help in the kitchen.
No, way back.
Nolan's Baked Crab. I went to his grandmother restaurant many times on Saturdays.
Listen, if you don't know about those baked crabs, then you look at your mother and cut your eye because she caused you miss out on Bahamian history.
Yeah.
I know some people who will cut my arm off to take my baked crab, my Nola's baked crab from me, if they know I had it.
Yeah.
What a tradition. So something like baked crab. Let me ask you a question. Are we at risk of losing the traditional Bahamian recipes and in this culture? Because there's a lot of people out there cooking food and calling it Bahamian.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they should be qualified, if the food qualifies as Bahamian.
Right.
And just because you could find a crab don't mean you could make baked crab.
Well, today, for instance, we talk about conch. Today, a person who's making conch fritter in Nassau, they're throwing away the conch skin. The conch skin has all of the flavor in it. On the island, they're going to use the conch skin. They're going to use the conch water as well, and build off of that. But Nassau, we throw that away, and that's where all the flavor is.
Well, listen, to the point where preserving food culture can be a national security issue, right? Because there's a massive demand for conch fritters and queen conch in New Providence, right?
Right.
And the people making the fritters are, like you say, they're not using the traditional part of the conch to make the fritters. They're using the tender white meat.
The white meat, that's
to make
it.
the fritters, right?
And the flavor is in there.
And then they're trying to charge you $3 a fritter. First of all, we have a national emergency. There is no way. And they're young people. They ain't telling you all this because of economics, right? And they think you could afford it. But when we were young, you could get 10 fritters for $1. And I remember when you could get 12 fritters for $1. And would you believe the reason why you can't get that good price is because they don't know how to make
Utilize the entire conch.
Right.
Yes. Right.
And so we had national security proportions in terms of the conch population,
Right.
because chefs and people who claim to be chefs don't know how to handle the product that they cook it.
Yeah, 100%. And then also to go back to one of your questions, we are in jeopardy of losing a lot of our Bahamian food culture. It's based on the fact that we are coming out of an era where a lot of things was oral. So now it's imperative that persons like myself and Chef Wayne transfer the oral traditions to written traditions and online traditions, platforms, etc., so that there is an ongoing reference to these things. When you type in Google certain things in the Bahamas, you need to be careful to know that we are at a safe place and making sure that we are identified. A lot of things that you put in online right now, for example, you put in conch fritters. Where you think that recipe coming from? Most likely not the Bahamas. So we have to be the ones that are now
Driving.
making sure that these things happen.
So, like, we need, first of all, we need a world court of food, right?
For sure.
For instance, I know we're talking Bahamian, right? I went to Barbados. I love Barbados. Barbados is probably my second home. My paternal grandfather is from Barbados, so I'm Bayesian, right?
Right.
And they tried to serve me macaroni pie. I asked if they have any baked macaroni. They tried to serve me macaroni pie. And I almost sat down and wrote CARICOM a letter and said, I don't mean to be snitching on people, but should these people be allowed to make baked macaroni and cheese? Do we need a court? Do we need a standard? Do we need a union association of chefs, and combined with historians and cultural stakeholders, right, to be the final word on what is traditional Bahamian?
I feel like that's vitally important. Macaroni and cheese, the flavor comes from the gold pepper. The gold pepper, how you cream the cheese and the milk and the cream, not the milk, cream.
Yeah,
You use cream in the original. But like I said, we need to get together with chefs and historians, and we need to do an original way. I know you have variations from island to island. For instance, in Cat Island, they would do a Johnny cake over there, different voices, Nassau. Nassau Johnny cake is more cakey.
Yeah.
Cat Island Johnny cake, you have to knead that.
All right.
And you're using baking powder, and you're using lard.
Okay, so I had this
You're not
question.
using butter.
Listen, I had this question, and I didn't know how to broach it sensitively with the Bahamian people, right? Is it Johnny cake or Johnny bread? Or are those two separate things entirely?
Well, they're basically the same thing, but in the islands, they would do it different than Nassau would do it. Nassau would do it in a more cake, a more lighter form.
Right.
On the island, during hurricanes and that kind of thing, they would make the Johnny bread. They could put that on the table, put a piece of cloth over that, or the potato bread, and that could be there for over a week.
All right.
In Nassau, that one is going to go stale or it's going to start molding because it's light and it has all these different other ingredients in it.
Right.
Johnny cake is for a long journey.
Right. So a lot of our variations are determined by or sort of compelled by circumstances where you are.
Right.
Right?
That's correct.
And so Nassau people, listen, in fact, they're Nassauvians and New Providence people. We are not allowed anymore to change these food recipes because it appears as if maybe we just changing them because it's easy to, right?
Well,
like we have easy access to things.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. And see, what we have to understand is there's two things here. One is not Nassau, first and foremost. Nassau is driven by a tourism-based economy for the most part. And then you also have to understand where the background of Bahamian food comes from. Bahamian food comes from a combination of post and pre-colonialism. So there's a lot of understanding and references after Columbus, but very few people understand and appreciate the references and recipes and receipts before Columbus.
Yeah.
And so once you start diving into those wholeheartedly, then you understand the difference. How can it be that we have a submarine base and the Mennonites, etc., in Andros? Don't you think that's going to affect the way that we have a culture in Andros?
Absolutely.
Of course it is.
And you'll see that the Mennonites style of coconut tart
And
Yes.
that is
bleeds-
distinct.
And
Right.
it bleeds into our culture.
Yeah.
The same thing about Grand Bahama. Most people, unfortunately, don't even know that the capital of Grand Bahama is West End. And the reason being is it was one of the first fishing villages of the Bahamas. And it was the place that Cuba migrated to after all of the embargoes and all of
Yeah.
the disconnect from the U.S. So that was settled by Cubans. And so that's why you have some of the things that you see in that
and like the
side.
pickle gong.
Of course.
Absolutely, because
And then-
Cubans have more retention of fermented and traditional
there you go.
survival
There
food
you go.
practices.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
then you have your African influence.
Yeah.
If you go in Ghana, and I went to Ghana 2 years ago. How we do the steam The
Anything.
steam corned beef.
Yeah.
They do the same thing over there. The stew fish. They
Yeah.
do. And most of the slaves, they transported from Ghana straight to the Caribbean. So we have a lot of Ghanaian influence
All
in
right.
our
So look
in
here,
our
let me
food
get
as
to
well.
these texts, and then I can tell you all the story of time and this thing I have on the table here, right? So the first text is not our discussion related, but I got to read them anyway. Menace needs to remove the travel health visa and open up the economy. No, maybe he just needs to reduce the costs associated with the travel health visa, particularly for Bahamians, so that they could move through the country and do the things they have to do, including taking care of parents and family property. People spend money on text. Please read them earlier in your show and not when your show is ending. You can try reading them as they come in. Thank you. I could try reading them as they come in, and sometimes it disrupts the flow of the discourse. And sometimes y'all don't want to talk about what we're talking about, and I have to find an appropriate place to put them into the discussion. But I hope that I made you feel better, because I feel your vibe. You spend 6 cents. Good morning, Erin. I love your idea and push to save and protect Bahamian food culture. By the way, according to Steve McKinney, peas and rice and steam or fried jackfish is the Bahamas' national dish.
No.
Okay, see the man them, and they could cook. They say it.
No.
A chef must be able to manage people, resources, and create profit. Erin, if you really think of it, chefs are like surgeons, as cooks are like nurses. Becoming a chef is years of developing different skills and continued education in culinary.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Some chefs shouldn't qualify as chefs. Some cooks should really be identified as cooks.
See, chefs have different roads in being a chef. Some chef could work up the ranks from a dishwasher, and they could work through the ranks of the kitchen. Some chefs, they go to formal training, culinary school, university, have some work experience. Other chefs, they're self-taught. They may take a knapsack and go to Europe and work in some of the kitchens. And these restaurants today, like the John George's and the Nubu, they have their whole team that does different aspects of the restaurant that they don't have to touch. They just touch the food aspect. They have their HR team, their development team, that kind of thing. So
Right.
as a chef, you could just be in a creative box when you get to a certain level.
Right.
And everybody else around you, you build a strong team.
Right.
And basically, they take care of the rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not everyone could cook crab and rice. How some people cook crab and rice is borderline blasphemous. Tell your guests, don't mention Freeport or Grand Bahamas. Crosshair, we people in Nassau a little touchy about Freeport. Yeah, listen, we ain't having no kind of real rivalry in this place, I know what you're saying, though. However, I think it's time for us to have a culinary Bahama Games. I think it's time for the islands to showcase their talent, not compete, showcase the variety of our talents through food.
Yes, 110%. Again, it goes to how specific each island is, how specific each home is. And these things, these variations come across through parents traveling, different lineage, different backgrounds, different economic possibilities, the whole 9 yards. But then there's always the foundation, the core, the way that we do things. You can travel throughout the Caribbean, for example, and very few places use lime and cut in salt and pepper the way that we do.
In fact, I travel most of the places in the Caribbean,
Right.
and ain't nobody in no restaurant at the very least cooking fish like Bahamian people.
No.
In fact, Bahamians are the champions
Yes.
of cooking fish.
Yes.
And the only people who could come, my Greek Bahamians, maybe some of y'all cousins in the Mediterranean, maybe they could come talk to us.
Well, that's the
We the
background
best.
of crack conch, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah.
They said in the 60s that the Imperials started the crack conch.
Yeah, it's
Malices.
Greek.
Well,
It's
Yeah.
Greek.
the family.
It's
Yeah.
very Greek based.
Yeah.
So it's there's so many things that are influenced by different parts of the world that to me the Bahamas perfected.
Right, see? Now I got a text here that says, Erin, you are a big supporter of immigration. Illegal immigrant and legal migrants are changing our food culture, so you can't support both.
Oh man, that's a whole nother story.
Right. And I don't know how much we're going to get into it today, but I do talk about how agricultural theft, right, impacts our food culture through the story of the banana, right? And you can see not that migrants are stealing local produce, but the introduction of new customer sources for products, right? That could be available to the thief, like the banana before the farmer picks it, right? Is impacting our food culture because we're not paying attention to it, right? And so now it's harder to find a tree-ripened, locally grown banana,
Because they done gone.
right? Because the
Green
thief
fig.
can sell it to restaurants
fig.
that use, right?
Yeah.
And so there is an issue there, but it ain't the mic like the mic out messages saying steal the food or shift the culture. It's about a blend of cultures that Bahamians come
There you
to
go.
appreciate.
And the thing about it is,
Yeah.
Bahamians so like to blend, but we don't want nobody blend with us.
That's a why. Listen, we got to go to a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about how important it is to blend the vibe, and then we can talk about the story of time. When we get back from the break, you're tuned into 96.9 FM. You're on the clock with Erin Greene, Chef Wayne Munker, and Chef Simeon Hall Jr. We'll be right back.
In life, there are always challenges. Today, we find ourselves having to be more self-sufficient, socially aware, and technically savvy. At J.S. Johnson, we are committed to our customers by providing cost-effective insurance solutions. No matter what your insurance needs, we will always be here for you. Call 397-2100 or visit jsjohnson.com. It's an insurance agents and brokers, giving you peace of mind.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to guardiantalkradio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
Good morning. You're tuned into 96.9 FM. If you want those call-in numbers, they are 323-6232. That's 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. And the text line is 422-4796. Let me just get a couple more texts. Seeing that this is political season, I would not mind cooking some PLP crab and rice in the FNM fire pot. Yummy. And we could sit by the lighthouse while we listen to the tunes of the Bahamas Christian Party, Constitutional Party, while we listen to the speeches from the Righteous People government. We cook in all parties. Yeah, let's not just take advantage of the big ones. That was funny. Green, how are you? 2 straight FNM. Yep, I love it. Hi, Bamboo are now the masters of the crack anything. Now, see, this is why we need a Bahama Games, right? Because I could tell you, I know somebody right now who throw their pan on the ground. What madness are you talking? You ain't never been to Ilutre or Exuma. You ain't never had Family Island crack conke, where it just melt in your mouth by the time it hits your tongue. That's blasphemy. I bet you that's somebody from Nassau. Also, they said, hi, I had crack conch dipped in this barbecue sauce, slightly baked. Miss Green, that's the best. Well, maybe. I've never tried that before. I don't know. Is it blasphemous to put barbecue sauce on your crack conch?
Anything that you like is how you should eat food.
You from Nassau. We don't trust you. You from Nassau?
For sure, 100%.
Okay, so I got a text here that says, great show as usual. I think a marijuana-infused guava duff will be a $1 billion idea. Now, texter, that's a great idea, but I'm going to take it one further, right? Mm-hmm. Food tourism and food festivals. Do we have the capacity, both on the agricultural and aquacultural side, and the skills and talent side? Do we have the capacity to make food tourism a central part of our tourism product?
110%. I did an event a couple years ago called Ignite, where we brought together 12 chefs, local and international chefs, one of the first of its kind here. and pretty much financed itself and a few donors.
Yeah.
And, Chef Wayne was there. Some amazing and incredible chefs were there. That was something that I did. Had it not been for COVID, this would have been our third year.
Okay.
So, it is very possible. In fact, the Bahamas is one of the few places in the region that doesn't have a national food and wine or food and beer or food and rum festival.
Yeah.
All right.
And that is definitely something that I think is long overdue here.
Yeah.
I think we can rival the Sobeys, Miami and South Beach wine and food festivals and stuff here in the Bahamas.
Absolutely. I participated in the Rum Festival Bahamas for several years, right? With a product that I make that is stellar, world class. And I could talk about it because it's an idea that tastes like food, right? And that's what I make. I make ideas that look and taste like food. But let's get to the phone line. Caller, you're on the clock.
That's a pleasant good morning, Miss Greene.
Hey, good morning. You come to give us some secrets?
Yeah, but the thing is, although we all make mistakes, being human, I am also one that make mistakes, but I'm a stickler for perfection.
Yes, sir.
And when I say perfection, we are so mixed up. We be telling lies all day and not even conscious that we lying.
Tell me what I got wrong.
I heard your guest made a comment while I was out in the yard raking up. And he made a comment that all of the Bahamas is not in Nassau. Now, guess what?
Yeah.
Y'all don't even mention, I have not heard y'all mention the island of New Providence this morning.
I mentioned it. I did
Hold on a
mention
second.
it.
Hold
but
on.
I
Give
was
me my
being
time. Give me my time
facetious.
because I know you're going to cut more. You cut more, so give me my time.
Only like a piece of sweet Johnny cake, Sparky.
No, what I'm saying is, I heard everything they mentioned is Nassau. Nassau is one little small piece of the island called New Providence.
Yeah.
I did say New
Nassau,
Providence.
all them big hotels y'all say in Nassau, ain't none of them in Nassau.
Yeah.
Nassau only got 3 hotels in it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's the Corona Hotel, the Sheraton Bristol Hotel, and the Town Hotel.
Right.
You right?
All the rest of
And
them
the
in
point.
New Providence, and one even in New Providence, one on Paradise Island, Hog Island.
Look
Yeah.
at that.
You know, Foxley ain't nowhere in Nassau.
At
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Yeah, man, none of them. Why are y'all talking about Nassau and forgetting that the island is
It's
named
New
New Providence? And when we teach the children in school, even the teachers be saying in the front of the blackboard, Nassau, Nassau, Nassau all day. When you think the children will learn that they live in the island named Providence? If everybody said they live in Nassau.
Good job, Mr. Spock.
I'm born
Thank
in
you.
Chippenham, but I'm born in Nassau.
Now look here, Sparky, I'm glad you say that because why is Chippenham a center of such good food? Why all of these people in Chippenham
good
cooking
food
this
and
good
just-
food
yeah.
and not tell, like you have to know somebody who knows
Yeah.
somebody who
Do
knows
you
the
know,
number to the
do,
shop.
you, do you know foreigners settle in the area around Chippenham, especially a lot of Jamaicans?
Okay.
You ever notice that the Haynes Oval, where they have the cricket pitch, Bahamians say cricket is our national sport, but very few Bahamians play cricket.
No, launching in the road is our national sport.
Cricket is played by mostly Trinidadian, Barbadians, Jamaicans, and so forth.
Yeah.
I'll visit the team from those islands. We have a few Bahamians that do take part in cricket,
You
but
right.
they say that's our national sport.
It is. Look here, I gotta go, Sparky, and I can tell you, I can tell you something. I gotta go. Just before we go to the next caller, there's a great course at the University of the West Indies called Caribbean Civilizations, right?
Right.
And one of the things you learn about is how the Caribbean countries are the same and how they're different.
Right.
And they talk a lot about how the things that impacted our food culture and the things that impacted our sports culture. And that's where I learned why cricket is our national sport. And then I learned why Bahamians need to be more active in this cultural process so we could say what we want the thing to be.
Right, right.
Thank
For
you,
sure.
Sparky.
For sure.
We got another caller on the line. Caller, you're on the clock. Morning.
I'm just tuning in. I didn't get the name of your guest, but he mentioned something that triggered my interest, and I called in, and he's talking about the possibility of exposing our foods to the world in terms of music and food festivals.
Yes.
We attempted to do this some time ago with something called Jonkanu in June. You may remember that festival that I was involved with. I would like to very much have an opportunity to have a conversation with the young man. I'm very familiar with what he is speaking of. I frequent New Orleans, as you know, and New Orleans has 400 different types of festival every year.
Right.
400. It's one of the most successful touristic destinations in the world. And it's all centered around its culture. And central to the cultural experience is food. And the Bahamian food is some of the most tasteful and wonderful experiences that any visitor and or Bahamian will have. And we talk about the Andros crab, and we talk about the Luthra pineapple, and we talk about the conch from the various islands, and the way that our people cook our food in the ovens when they cook the bread. I've never had such good tasting bread than you take that bread out of the Dutch oven, where we used to have samples of it from people came in from Eleuthera and other islands to cook and demonstrate those foods. So I applaud the gentleman and his aspirations and his desire to expose the world to what we have as our heritage. And he talked about the African influence. Well, it's all based and steeped in our African ancestry.
Yes,
And
sir.
history. So I would be more than grateful if I can get if you could once again announce his name and he could tell us how we could contact him. I would be very interested because I'm very much interested. I'm planning a drum festival, Ms. Greene.
Well, listen.
Sometime later on this year.
You need to make sure you talk to Reverend Kahun Ankusara.
No question. Well, he would be one of my presenters. I
And
know him quite well.
Ubuntu. Oh, wow. Awesome.
The bottom line is we need to come together and bypass all the political rhetoric.
Yes.
And as artists do, we must present ourselves, and I'm sure that the world will come knocking at our door for the experiences.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So
Thank you very much.
You got, if you're willing to share.
Yes, for sure. I can be reached very, very easily at www.simeonhalljr.com. All of my contacts, links, everything that you would need is on that page.
Absolutely.
100%.
And Chef Munker, share your information too, if you don't mind.
Okay, you can contact me at bahamas@gmail.com. Also, you can DM me on Sun and Ice page as well. Yeah.
So I got a text here that says, to your guests, how vital is it to have good live music paired with good food, particularly when dining in restaurants? And I guess I want to say, how much attention do we really pay to curating and creating an experience
Right.
with food? And how will paying attention to that help us to expand our broader experiential tourism model? Right? It's sort of the question there. Another text, I remember there used to be great free food fair on Cable Beach grounds back in the 1980s. Y'all used to give away free food on Cable Beach in the 80s? And y'all didn't tell us? Boy, look here, y'all old heads really was rocking. Now, here's a text. But we have a serious problem. These women in Nassau can't cook no more. No woman under the age of 45 could cook crab and rice. That's insane. I might have to find an older woman to romance. Actually, one under the age of 35 could cook nowadays. That's sad. First of all, women under the age of 45 could cook. They just ain't telling you because you don't qualify to know their secrets, sir. I didn't want to expose you like that on air. But you are correct. We are losing some of the traditional recipes. Go on, Chef.
I feel like part of the problem is, for instance, when I was in high school at St. John's,
Yeah.
I was taught how to, in food nutrition class, how to do apple pie, pizza,
Right.
and rock buns. I think a part of the curriculum should be learn how to do boiled fish,
Yes.
Johnny cake, potato bread, that kind of stuff, because, we can build off of that. That's the foundation of Bahamian cuisine. Why am I doing pizza and all these other stuff? I mean, you can do that as well. You
Yeah.
can do a count pizza, but you should learn your own.
And also when you see
cuisine.
the value, right? That being able to cook
That's the
traditional
word.
Bahamian food has historic and cultural value, but it has economic value.
Absolutely.
And everybody, look here, when somebody wants a pea soup and dumpling, they sell out every Thursday.
Yeah.
But look here, I got a caller on the line. Didn't mean to keep you waiting so long. Caller, Kermit, is the caller still there? Yeah, caller, you're on the clock.
Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Greene.
Good morning, how you do?
I guess under part of ski would be our street food center.
Yeah, no. I mean, sort of.
Because I know the first and last thing.
But let me tell you why I know. Not because there's a lack of quality of food, Them by them underneath, they're cooking good
But
food.
I know
It's because it's not walking food. It's not festival food.
No.
I know, but I know, like, when I go to L.A.,
Yeah.
first and last place I go to is the farmer's market. I need a big bank. It's like the bank built on stilts, but you could get fresh food, cooked food, seafood. Mexican got the real tacos, enchiladas.
Yeah. And there are lots of vendors in the market, You
Yes.
see them at festivals. There's
Yes,
not
and, like,
necessarily.
you could buy,
Yeah.
I know we used to go downtown years ago. My store market, you could buy fresh food, fish. But like, it's like that has changed. I guess and the Port of Ski became our street foods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some countries, for China, Jamaica, they have street foods 6 days a week.
But, and
You
see,
could eat
I was going to
fresh.
say, some of this is about our consumption culture.
There you go.
Right. How
There you go.
we purchase things and how we
Yeah.
eat things.
I guess with the invention of fast food.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that too.
We're also a shift country.
Yeah.
We're based in shift work. We're
Yeah.
based in the tourism market, and the tourism product has its upside and it has its downside. The downside of it has made us a society of convenience. And so even in the outer islands now, you see it moving towards more convenience.
Yeah.
So now instead of being able to go home or wanting to go home and to create meals, we are now moved in the direction of stopping and buying food.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we are in a culture of fast food. We don't even have many good, quick, Bahamian cultural restaurants.
Right. No real diners that are
No.
affordable for families.
We want
no,
instant.
no.
We want
Right,
instant. That's
yeah,
why
for sure.
on our key you'll find them deep frying the fish as opposed to putting it in the skillet. They don't want to
Listen,
take that time to do
Listen, and you're charging too much. I'd like to make a technical note here. You are charging too much money for fish that is deep fried and not pan fried because you missed the point
You
of
missed the
what
point,
happens
man.
in the
That's-
cast iron skillet when the gold pepper and the salt hit the cast iron. That is what make the fish taste like it's supposed to
But
taste.
Absolutely.
we need to be consumers that our get to a place where this is what we are asking for.
Yeah.
Not where we go to the fish fry and we want our food in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Or we want it this quick because we're ready to move on, et cetera,
All right.
et cetera.
So, and another thing, I talk about how paying attention to some of the smaller issues are important security level, right? People don't have enough time in their days to organize cooking food at home. So they end up taking advantage of the most convenient
Not the way
options.
that we used to, for sure.
Right.
And because of our tourism market
Right.
and our tourism base.
And the way that our lives are structured.
Of course.
And if you spend in 2 hours a day, 2.5 to 3 hours, an hour plus to get to work and an
Commute
hour
in,
plus to
yeah,
get home, you don't have the energy
Grab something.
to put the love and the thing
Yeah,
in the food that make it taste good.
Yeah.
I got another caller. Caller, you're on the clock. You got 30 seconds. Good morning. Say it again.
Quick point.
Yes,
quick
sir.
Point. You're talking about Bahamian food. One, I can say this, and a lot of us forgot about Jombe Village in Ed Moxie, the Palm Tree Restaurant, the Reef Restaurant. Thank
sure.
God Peggy Swan is still open. They're the real icons.
Yeah.
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 And the palm tree is
It
real.
all started with us in Jombe Village.
Well, listen, I wouldn't have known anything about the palm burger except my daddy used to bring them home and then save 2 bites and ask us if we want some and then smile at us.
But I'll pay a continued tribute to the Reef
Yes.
and Peggy Swan. The shoal gone, but the Reef still holding the fort and Peggy Swan. And you got a good show and tell the chef, keep cooking.
That's right.
And we have to remember the over the hill area in New Providence became so popular because what happened was the tourists used to venture over the hill
For the good food.
for the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's how Junkanoo went to Bay Street. Because Junkanoo used to be over the hill.
Yeah.
It was a community-based celebration over the hill. And they used to venture on this part. And then everybody started to realize, hey, this is the good stuff over here. And if you look at all of those hotels and restaurants, etc., where they started, that over the hill area in New Providence was saturated by absolutely amazing artists, artisans, chefs, cooks, restaurateurs, the whole nine
A
yards.
generation of young people who think that, there was, and we understand there's a privilege of being moved to the suburbs, right? And a different life. But look at what we lost out on. Look at the culture that we are no longer inherently attached to. When my mother moved out of the Fort Hill to the suburbs, a vacuum was created,
Yeah.
right? And that vacuum was filled, not necessarily by bad things, but I wasn't a part of that space anymore, right? And I lost out on all the good things.
But I believe it's coming back as a reemergence of authenticity, because you have a lot of travelers, young Instagram travelers, who are looking for authentic experiences.
Yeah, and so we have an
so that
opportunity.
trend in the culinary field is coming back for that authentic experience.
All right, so my guests will be joining me next week. Chef Wayne Moncur, you will definitely be here. If the people will let Brother Simeon Hall Jr. join us and run away from that oven, I think maybe we could get him back too. Let me read the last. The Cat Island chef is a beast. Well, he ain't bring no food here this morning to show me that. And I did bring food for him. A little competition. He didn't know I bring some strawberry and passion fruit muffins with tamarind sauce on the top. I was going to try bring you all some of my tamarind coconut tart. See, people just make all kind of coconut tart, but tamarind coconut tart, like me and my people making coconut tart.
Nice.
The text said, good morning, Sparky is wrong. You have the Pantalon, the Greek Hotel, the Holiday Inn, the El Greco, the Hilton, the Great Hotels.
Yeah.
But we understand the point that Sparky was trying to make. Tell your guests after the lockdown, I have mastered the art of cooking curry chicken. So I challenge him to a curry chicken cook out live on radio. Boy, leave. I got your text. I got your number here. Maybe I can share it with him. If you're serious, let me know if you're serious. My only issue with food festivals is portion sizes. I ain't trying to get full at one spot. I want to enjoy a little bit from as much places. That was a point that I made earlier. We do the festival food culture yet. Small plates at small prices.
You can taste everything.
That's why I come to the festival instead of just your restaurant. Good morning, Miss Green. Great show. My cousin from Paul, my good friend, great chef. Look here, are you getting these in Cat Island endorsements? I got to come to your
It's a
house.
Cat Island chef, man.
I got to come to your house. Don't say no more. Is it really Bahamian? These dishes originated in Africa. We still can't define Bahamian culture and what it is to be one. By the way, texts are 7 cents. And that's why I read both of you for reminding me. We are from Africa. In fact, we're from West Africa. I was going to tell you all the story of time so you could understand why it's so in food culture. It's important not just for the taste or because the Africans brought it with them to put in the food. Thyme is superfood. It's medicine. It's a treatment for hypertension, swelling of the joints, gout, overheating, and dehydration. It is also an upper respiratory conditioner and a treatment for sinus. You know how it's like I can't take the vaccine because the way my sinus set up, right? It ain't gonna work. This is a conditioner for upper respiratory symptoms, right? It is also used in health and we call natal conditioning. It's also used for that. And so there's a reason why thyme is also Bahamian, because of the amount of kept it alive, not just in our food palates, but in our literal lives. It has been healing us since we came here from Africa, and that's why it too Bahamian food. But next week we're going to get into more of this food culture talk, so we could continue to understand how food drives our lives. This allows when you're driving past the chicken in the bag shop and you having that craving, pause. Don't stop your car. You may not be craving that chicken. You may be craving the fermented vinegar and tomato in the hot sauce and ketchup steaming off the food, which is a reminder to return to your traditional cultural food practices of fermenting and preserving and pickling foods. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation today. Remember to tune in on Monday.
9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.